A freezing Maine night, snow falling thick. A struggling single dad, Jack Turner, driving home to his daughter until he spots a shadow in the storm. A pregnant woman left to face the cold alone. What he does next changes their lives forever, leading to a moment years later when her child calls him dad. Before we begin this touching story, please hit that like button to spread more kindness. Thank you so much. It was the kind of cold that sank into your bones, the kind that made your breath catch, your fingers ache, your heart feel just a little heavier. In a small Maine town, where winter ruled like an unforgiving king. The snow fell thick and relentless. Streetlights flickered, casting amber glows through the haze. The roads were empty, the world silent, except for one old Chevy truck groaning up a hill. Jack Turner gripped the wheel, his knuckles pale. The wipers slashed at the snow, barely keeping up. The heater sputtered, coughing lukewarm air into the cab. Jack was late again. Emily would be waiting, probably curled up on the couch, pretending not to worry. His daughter, 9 years old, was too good at that, pretending. He rubbed his eyes. The day's work still heavy on him, hours bent over a carburetor, grease under his nails, the smell of oil clinging to his jacket. His back ached, his wallet was thin, and home was still 5 minutes away. The cabin waited, tucked into the pines, small, weathered, but theirs. Jack liked it that way, quiet, predictable. Since Lisa's death 3 years ago, he'd kept his world small. Just him and Emily, navigating a life that felt like a puzzle with missing pieces. He was dad, mom, mechanic, cook bacon some days. He wasn't sure he was enough, but tonight, as the truck rounded a bend, everything changed. The headlights swept over something that wasn't supposed to be there. Jack squinted. A shadow, hunched by the road. A deer. Trash. No, it moved. He hit the brakes. Tires crunching in the snow. The truck stopped. Engine rumbling. He leaned forward, heart picking up. The beams caught it now, a figure. Small, curled tight. A person, alone. He opened the door, the wind slicing through his jacket. Hey, he called, voice swallowed by the storm. No answer. He stepped closer, boots sinking deep. The figure flinched, arms wrapped around knees. A coat, too thin. Dark hair, matted with snow. And then he saw it, the curve of her belly, round and heavy under a worn sweatshirt. Pregnant. Jack's gut twisted, an old instinct waking up. You okay? He asked. Softer now. Figure, a girl. Young looked up. Her face was pale, lips blue, eyes wide with something between fear and defiance. She was maybe 19, 20 at most. Too young to be out here, alone, like this. I'm fine, she rasped, voice barely there. Jack crouched, keeping his distance. You're not fine. It's wicked cold. You'll freeze. I said I'm fine. No fight in her words. Just exhaustion. Like she'd run out of everything hope, strength, maybe even herself. Jack hesitated. He didn't do this, didn't pick up strangers, didn't get involved. Not since Lisa, not since the hospital bills. The grief, the nights he'd sat alone while Emily slept. His life was small for a reason, safe. But this girl, she wasn't safe, not out here, not like this. Look, he said, voice steady. I got a place just down the road. It's warm. Dry. You don't have to say a word. And you can leave whenever you want. But I can't just drive off. Not now. She stared at the snow, flakes catching on her lashes, a long pause, the wind howling between them. Then, a nod so small he almost missed it. Jack exhaled. Relief mixing with something heavier, he offered a hand. She took it, her fingers ice cold, and stumbled as she stood, He steadied her, shocked at how light she was. Inside the truck, she curled into the passenger seat, silent, shivering. Jack cranked the heat, though it barely helped. "What's your name?" he asked, easing onto the road. Nothing, just the hum of the engine, the slap of the wipers. "That's okay," he said, glancing over. "You tell me when you're ready." The cabin came into view, its windows glowing soft. "Emily's doing. She always left the porch light on." Jack parked, the snow already piling around the tires. He led the girl inside, the warmth hitting them like a wave. The living room smelled of pine and cinnamon, a candle flickering on the table. Emily was asleep on the couch, a book open on her chest. Her flashlight dimmed. Jack's heart eased. She was safe. He covered Emily with a blanket, then turned. The girl stood in the entryway, dripping snow, clutching her arms. Her eyes darted, wary, like she was waiting for a trap. Jack gestured to the kitchen. "Soup's on the stove. I'll grab a towel." She followed, wordless, her steps slow. He handed her a towel, then ladled soup into a bowl. She sat, hands trembling as she took it. She ate slowly, carefully, like she hadn't eaten in days. Jack watched, something heavy settling in his chest. He felt old, helpless, like the world had broken something he couldn't fix. "You can sleep upstairs," he said when she finished. "It's not much, but it's warm. Bathroom's down the hall." She looked at him, her eyes softer now, though her mouth stayed tight. "Thank you," she whispered. 2 words. Barely there, but enough. Jack nodded. "I'm Jack." She hesitated, then said, "Sarah, Sarah," like a bird caught in a storm, fragile but not broken. "Not yet." Jack showed her to the guest room, a small space with a creaky bed, a quilt Lisa had made, a window framing the snow. "You need anything? I'm downstairs," he said. She nodded. Clutching a worn backpack, Jack left her, the door clicking shut. Downstairs. He stood by the fire, its crackle filling the silence. He didn't know what he'd just done bringing a stranger into his home, into Emily's life. But something told him this wasn't a mistake. It was a beginning. Morning came quiet, the snow still falling, the world muffled. Jack woke to the hiss of the kettle, the scent of coffee. He pulled on his flannel. The cabin chilly despite the fire he'd stoked last night. Emily was up, sitting by the hearth, her blanket a cocoon around her. Her curly hair was a mess, her eyes bright with questions. "Dad," she whispered, glancing upstairs. "Who's that girl?" Jack knelt beside her, brushing hair from her face. "Her name's Sarah. She needed help. She's staying for a bit. Is she okay?" Emily's voice was small, but her eyes were big, taking in more than a kid should. "I think so," Jack said. "She's just tired." Emily nodded, her trust so simple it hurt. Jack stood, ruffling her hair. "Pancakes." Her smile was his reward. "Yes." In the kitchen, Jack mixed batter, the clink of the bowl grounding him. He glanced at the stairs, half expecting Sarah to be gone, but then she appeared, moving slow, wearing an old sweater of Lisa's he'd left outside her door. It was too big, but warmer than her coat. Her dark hair was pulled back, her belly more obvious now. She held the railing, one hand on her stomach, her eyes scanning the room like she expected rejection. Jack offered a mug of tea. "Morning. Sleep, okay?" She took it, her fingers brushing his. "Yeah?" Thanks. This is Emily," Jack said, nodding at his daughter, who'd followed him in. Emily waved, shy but curious. "Hi," Sarah said, her voice soft. She sat at the table, clutching the mug like a lifeline. Emily slid a drawing across. "This is you," she said, pointing at a stick figure with a round belly. A red heart hovered above. "And your baby." Sarah stared, her hand trembling as she touched the paper. "Thanks," she said. Her voice cracking, Emily beamed, unaware of the weight her gift carried. Jack cooked pancakes, the sizzle filling the silence. Sarah ate slowly, her eyes flicking between Emily and the window, where snow piled high. Jack watched, questions burning. Where was she from? Why was she alone? But he didn't ask. Not yet. After breakfast, Emily dragged out a board game, her chatter unstoppable. "Want to play?" "Sarah, it's fun." Sarah hesitated, then nodded. They sat by the fire, Emily explaining rules, Sarah listening, a small smile breaking through. Jack cleaned dishes, stealing glances. Emily's laughter, Sarah's quiet replies. It felt right. Like a piece of the puzzle had clicked into place. Outside, the snow hadn't stopped. Jack shoveled the walk, the cold biting his hands. His neighbor, Tom, trudged over, his dog at his heels. "Heard you got company," Tom said, voice low. Jack kept shoveling. "Yeah." "Girl needed a place." Tom raised a brow. "Pregnant kid. You sure about this?" "Jack, you don't know her." Jack paused, snow falling between them. She was freezing. "Tom, what was I supposed to do?" Tom sighed. "Just be careful." Jack nodded. But his gut told him he was right. Sarah wasn't trouble. She was trouble's victim. Back inside, Emily was showing Sarah a photo album, old pictures of Lisa, of them as a family. Sarah listened, her eyes soft, her hand on her belly. Jack joined them. Sitting across, "She's nosy," he said, nodding at Emily. Sarah smiled, faint but real. "It's okay. She's sweet." Emily grinned, then yawned. "Nap time," Jack said, and Emily groaned but obeyed, trudging upstairs. Alone with Sarah, Jack stoked the fire. She sat, clutching a notebook, her pen moving slow, writing. He asked, "Careful." She nodded, not looking up. "Letters. To her." She touched her belly. Jack's chest tightened. Lisa had done that written notes to Emily when the cancer was winning. "That's good," he said. "She'll want those someday." Sarah's eyes met his, raw, searching. "You think so? I know so," Jack said, his voice firm. "You're already giving her something real." She looked away, tears glinting. "My parents, they said I ruined everything. Said I was nothing." Jack leaned forward, anger flickering. "You're not nothing. Sarah, you're here. You're fighting. That's more than they gave you." She blinked, tears falling. "Why are you doing this? Helping me?" Jack paused, fire crackling. "Because I know what it's like to feel alone, and because I couldn't leave you out there." Sarah nodded, a small, broken sound escaping. Thank you." "Jack." He stood, giving her space. "Stay as long as you need." "Okay." She nodded again, clutching the notebook like it was all she had. That night, after Emily was asleep, Jack sat by the fire. The cabin quiet. Sarah had gone to bed. Her door closed. He thought of her eyes stormy, scared, but strong. He thought of Emily's drawing, of Lisa's quilt on Sarah's bed. His life had been small, safe, until now. He didn't know what came next, but he knew one thing. Sarah and her baby weren't just passing through. They were part of something bigger. Outside, the snow fell, soft and endless. Inside, the fire burned, steady and warm. And in that small Maine cabin, a new story was beginning, one of kindness, of second chances, of a family not yet named. The snow didn't stop. It fell for 3 days straight, burying the small Maine town in a blanket of white that silenced everything but the wind. Inside Jack Turner's cabin, the world felt different, smaller, warmer, but fragile, like a snow globe waiting for a shake. Jack woke each morning to the same routine: stoke the fire, brew coffee, check on Emily. But now, There was Sarah Miller, the pregnant girl he'd found in the snow, and her presence changed the rhythm of the house. Her quiet footsteps, her hesitant glances, the way she clutched her notebook, it all lingered, like a melody he couldn't quite place. Jack stood in the kitchen, the clock reading 6 hours 30 a.m. The kettle hissed, steam curling in the chilly air. Emily was still asleep, her blanket a tangle on the couch. Sarah was upstairs. Probably awake, she rose early, often before him, as if afraid to take up space. Jack poured coffee, its bitter scent grounding him. He was tired, his hands still greasy from a late-night repair job, his mind heavy with questions. Who was Sarah? Really? Why was she alone? And why couldn't he shake the feeling that she was more than a stranger? The cabin creaked, the fire crackling in the hearth. Jack glanced at the window, where snow piled high, sealing them in. No one was going anywhere, not him, not Emily, not Sarah. He thought of Tom's warning, "You don't know her." But he also thought of Sarah's eyes, raw with pain, and Emily's drawing, the red heart hovering over a stick-figure mother. Jack wasn't sure what he was doing, but he knew he couldn't stop. Footsteps on the stairs broke his thoughts. Sarah appeared, wearing Lisa's old sweater, her dark hair pulled back, her belly round under the fabric. She moved slowly, one hand on the railing, the other on her stomach. Her eyes met his, cautious but softer than yesterday. "Morning," Jack said, lifting his mug. "Tea." Sarah nodded, a small smile flickering. "Please." He poured a mug, the steam rising between them. She took it, her fingers brushing his, and sat at the table. The silence wasn't heavy, but it was there, like a guest waiting to be acknowledged. Jack leaned against the counter, watching her. "Sleep okay?" "Better," she said, her voice low. "The bed's warm." "Good," Jack said, nodding. "Storm's got us stuck for a bit. Roads are a mess." Sarah's eyes flicked to the window, a shadow crossing her face. "How long?" "Day or two. Maybe," Jack said. "You in a hurry?" She shook her head. "Too quick." "No, just wondering." Jack didn't push. He saw it, the fear, the need to run, even if she had nowhere to go. He'd felt it too, after Lisa died, when the world seemed too big, too empty. "You're safe here," he said, his voice firm. "Long as you need." Sarah's eyes met his, searching. "Why are you so kind?" Jack paused, the question catching him off guard. "Ain't about kind," he said, scratching his neck. "It's about doing what's right. You needed help. I had a couch." She looked down, her fingers tracing the mug's rim. "Most people, they don't." "Then most people are fools," Jack said, a grin tugging his lips. Sarah's smile was small, but real, and for a moment, the silence felt lighter. Emily's voice broke the spell. "Dad, pancakes." She bounded into the kitchen, her curls wild, her pajamas wrinkled. She stopped, seeing Sarah, and grinned. "Hi, Sarah." "Hi, Emily," Sarah said, her voice warming. Emily climbed onto a chair, chattering about snow forts and hot cocoa. Jack watched, his heart easing. Emily had a way of filling spaces, of making strangers feel like friends. They ate breakfast, Jack flipping pancakes, Emily spilling syrup, Sarah laughing, a sound so soft it felt like a secret. After, Emily dragged out her coloring book. "Sarah, draw with me," she said, pushing crayons across the table. Sarah hesitated, her hand hovering. "I'm not good at that." "Doesn't matter," Emily said, shrugging. "It's fun." Sarah took a crayon, her movements careful, like she was afraid to make a mark. Emily drew a horse. Sarah added a flower. Jack cleaned dishes, stealing glances. Emily's chatter about school, her friend Lila. The pony she dreamed of drew Sarah out, her replies growing longer, her shoulders relaxing. It was small, but it a start to something. By noon, the cabin felt different, not crowded, but full. Jack checked the firewood, the pile low. The snow was still falling, the wind rattling the windows. He pulled on his coat. Gonna grab more wood, he said. You two okay? Emily nodded, engrossed in her drawing. Sarah looked up, hesitant. I can help. Jack raised a brow. You sure? It's cold out there. I'm not helpless, Sarah said, her voice quiet but firm. I'm pregnant. Jack chuckled, caught off guard. Fair enough. Bundle up. They trudged to the shed, the snow reaching their knees. Jack led, breaking a path, his boots crunching. Sarah followed, her breath visible, her steps slow but determined. The wind bit, but she didn't complain. At the barn, Jack handed her a canvas sack. Light stuff only, he said, his tone serious. Sarah nodded. Stacking logs with care, they worked in silence. The storm's howl wrapping around them. Jack watched her, ready to step in. But Sarah moved with a purpose, like proving something to him, to herself. You're stubborn, he said, half smiling. Takes one, she shot back, her cheeks red from the cold. You're out here, too. Jack laughed, the sound surprising him. Guess we're both fools. Then, Sarah's smile was faint, but it warmed the air. They filled the sack, the work steadying them. Back inside, Emily had lit more kindling, the hearth glowing. The three of them sat on the rug, warming their hands, sipping tea. Emily looked at Sarah. You ever made a snow angel? Sarah's brow furrowed. Once, maybe. When I was a kid, we should, Emily said, eyes bright. Tomorrow. Okay. Sarah nodded, her smile genuine. Maybe. Jack watched, his heart full. Emily's light, Sarah's slow thaw. It was a kind of magic he hadn't seen in years. He thought of Lisa, of her laughter, how she'd filled this house with it. Sarah wasn't Lisa, but she was something. Someone who needed this place as much as it needed her. That afternoon, the power flickered, the wind slammed. The cabin groaning, the lights blinked, held, then died. The hum of the heater stopped. Emily's eyes widened. Dad, what's wrong? Storm's out, Jack said, grabbing a flashlight. We've got firewood. Candles. We're fine. Sarah's hands tightened on around her mug. How long? Could be hours, Jack said, his voice calm. Could be a day. We'll manage, she nodded. But her eyes were tight. Jack lit candles, their glow dancing on the walls. Emily grabbed a board game, her answer to everything. Let's play. Sarah, you in? Sarah hesitated, then joined them. They sat by the fire, Emily giggling, Sarah relaxing. Jack watched, his mind turning. Sarah was here, but she was running from something, someone. Maybe. He wanted to ask, but he didn't. Not yet. Dinner was soup, heated on the wood stove. Emily yawned, her eyes drooping. Bedtime, Jack said, and she groaned, but obeyed. Trudging upstairs with her flashlight, Jack turned to Sarah, the firelight soft on her face. You holding up? Yeah, she said, her voice low. It's nice here. Good, Jack said, stoking the fire. You need anything? You holler. Sarah nodded, clutching her notebook. Jack, why don't you ask? About me. He paused, the poker in his hand. Figure, you'll tell me when you're ready. Her eyes glistened, a tear catching the light. I don't know if I'll ever be. That's okay, Jack said, his voice firm. You're here now. That's enough. She nodded, a small sound escaping. Good night, Jack. Night, Sarah. The next morning, the snow slowed, but the power stayed off. Jack woke to Emily's voice, loud and excited. Dad, Sarah's making toast. He stumbled into the kitchen. Rubbing his eyes, Sarah stood at the wood stove, toasting bread, her movements careful. Emily sat at the table, drawing. Morning, Jack said. Grabbing coffee. Morning, Sarah said, handing him a plate. It's not much. It's perfect, Jack said, taking a bite. The toast was warm, the butter melting. Emily grinned, her mouth full. After breakfast, Emily dragged them outside. Snow angels, she declared. Pulling on her coat, Jack hesitated. But Sarah nodded, her eyes bright. They bundled up, the cold biting as they stepped into the yard. The snow was deep, the world a canvas of white. Emily flopped onto her back, arms and legs sweeping. Like this, Sarah. Sarah laughed a clear, honest sound and lay down, her belly making it awkward. She moved her arms, slow and careful, her breath clouding. Emily squealed, standing to admire their work. Jack watched, his heart catching. Sarah's laughter, Emily's joy, it was something he'd forgotten, something he needed. Looks good, he said, his voice rough. Sarah sat up, breathless. I haven't done that in years. Suits you, Jack said, the words slipping out. She glanced at him, a flicker of something trust, maybe passing between them. Back inside, they warmed by the fire, cocoa steaming. Emily showed Sarah her drawings horses, stars, a stick figure family. Sarah listened, her hand on her belly, her eyes soft. Jack watched, a question burning. Sarah, you got a name for her. Sarah's smile was small. Secret. Ava. Ava, Jack repeated, the name warm on his tongue. It's good. Emily grinned. I'm gonna draw Ava. That night, after Emily was asleep, Jack found Sarah by the fire, her notebook open. She didn't hide it this time. Writing to Ava, he asked, sitting across. Yeah, she said, her pen pausing, telling her about today. The snow angels. Jack nodded. The fire popping. Lisa, my wife, she wrote to Emily. When she was sick, letters like that, they matter. Sarah's eyes met his, raw. What happened to her? Jack's throat tightened. Cancer. 3 years ago. Emily was 6. She doesn't remember the worst. Sarah nodded, her voice soft. You kept going. Had to, Jack said, looking at the flames. Emily, she's why I didn't fall apart. Sarah's hand rested on her belly. I don't know if I can do that. Be enough. You already are, Jack said, his voice firm. You're writing to her. You're here. That's enough. Tears fell, silent. My parents, they kicked me out. Said I was a disgrace. The guy, he left when he found out. Jack's hands clenched. Anger hot. They're wrong. Sarah, all of them. You're not a disgrace. You're strong. She shook her head, a sob breaking. I don't feel strong, but you are, Jack said, leaning forward. You're still fighting. For Ava. That's what matters. Sarah wiped her eyes. A small nod. A thank you. Jack, for seeing me? He nodded, giving her space. Get some rest. The power came back the next day. The lights flickering on, the heater humming. Emily cheered, but Jack felt a pang. The storm was over. Sarah could leave, but she didn't. She stayed, helping with dishes, playing with Emily, writing her letters. The cabin felt alive, its quiet corners filled with laughter, with hope. One evening, Jack found Sarah in the kitchen, staring at a letter unopened, from a Vermont address. Yours? He asked. She nodded, her face tight. My sister. Haven't talked in months. You gonna open it? Not yet, she said, tucking it away. I'm not ready. Fair enough, Jack said, pouring tea. When you are, I'm here. She smiled, faint but real. You're too good, Jack. Nah, he said, grinning, just stubborn. That night, Jack sat by the fire, Emily asleep, Sarah upstairs. He thought of Lisa, of the life they'd planned. He thought of Sarah, of Ava, of the family they were becoming. It scared him, the risk, the trust, but it also felt right, like a road he was meant to take. Outside, the snow melted, slow and stubborn. Inside, something else was thawing trust. Hope, a family not yet named. And in that small Maine cabin, the story was just beginning. The snow in Maine began to soften, its edges melting into slush along the driveway of Jack Turner's cabin. By late January, the world outside was still white, but the storms had eased, leaving a quiet that felt both peaceful and precarious. Inside, the cabin hummed with a new rhythm, one shaped by Jack, his 9-year-old daughter Emily, and Sarah Miller, the pregnant young woman who'd become part of their lives. The hearth burned steady, its glow casting warmth over the wooden floors, but Jack felt a different kind of heat building. The weight of choices, the pull of trust, and the fragile hope of something more than survival. Jack woke early. The clock reading 5:45 a.m., the air was chilly, his breath visible as he pulled on his flannels. He moved quietly, not wanting to wake Emily or Sarah. The guest room door was closed, but he knew Sarah was likely awake. Her early rising, a habit he'd noticed. She'd been with them 2 weeks now. Her presence no longer strange, but essential. Like the fire he stoked each morning, he brewed coffee, its scent filling the kitchen, and stood by the window, watching the dawn break over the pines. The world was thawing, and so was something inside him. Emily's laughter broke the silence, her footsteps pattering down the stairs. Dad, can we build a snow fort today? She appeared, her curls wild, her pajamas wrinkled. Jack grinned, ruffling her hair. Maybe, kiddo. If the snow holds, Sarah followed, slower, her hand on her belly. She wore Lisa's sweater, its sleeves loose, her dark hair tied back. Her eyes met Jack's, soft but guarded. Morning, she said, her voice low. Morning, Jack replied, pouring tea. Sleep okay? Yeah, Sarah said, taking the mug. Ava's active. Kept me up. Emily's eyes lit up. Ava's kicking. Can I feel? Sarah hesitated, then nodded, guiding Emily's hand to her belly. Emily gasped, her face bright. She's strong. Jack watched, his heart catching Emily's joy. Sarah's small smile, it was a kind of magic, fragile but real. He thought of Lisa, of the nights she'd let Emily feel her kicks, and the ache was there, but softer now, like a bruise healing. Breakfast was oatmeal, Emily spilling sugar, Sarah laughing, a sound that came easier now. After, Emily dragged out her sketchbook, drawing snow forts and ponies. Sarah joined her crayon tracing careful lines. Jack cleaned dishes, stealing glances. Sarah was opening up, her walls crumbling. But he saw the shadows in her eyes, the unopened letter from her sister still tucked in her bag. Sarah, Emily said, holding up a drawing. This is us. You, me, Dad, and Ava. Sarah stared at the stick figures, a red heart above them. Her hand trembled, her voice soft. It's beautiful, Emily. Jack's throat tightened. Emily's heart was so big, so open. He wanted to protect it, to protect them all, but he wasn't sure how. Sarah wasn't just a guest anymore. She was part of them, and that scared him as much as it warmed him. By noon, the sun peeked through, the snow glistening. Emily begged to go outside, and Jack agreed, bundling her up. Sarah watched from the porch, her coat belted around her belly. "You're not coming?" Jack asked. Tossing a snowball, Sarah shook her head, smiling. "I'll cheer from here." Emily flopped into the snow, making angels. Her laughter echoing, Jack joined her. Building a fort, his hands numb but his heart full. He glanced at Sarah, her face soft in the sunlight, and felt it a pull, a warmth he hadn't known since Lisa. It wasn't love, not yet. It was something close, something dangerous. Back inside, they warmed by the fire. Cocoa steaming. Emily showed Sarah her fort sketch. Chattering about turrets and flags, Sarah listened, her hand on her belly, her eyes distant. Jack sat across, stoking the flames. "You okay?" he asked, his voice low. Sarah nodded, but her smile was tight. "Just thinking about," Jack pressed. Gentle, she hesitated, her fingers tracing her mug. "Home. Or what it used to be." Jack waited. Giving her space, Sarah's voice came, soft, halting. "My parents, they were strict. Church, every Sunday. Rules for everything. When I got pregnant, they said I'd shamed them. My dad, he wouldn't look at me. My mom said I'd ruin Ava, like I ruined myself." Jack's hands clenched, anger hot. "They're wrong, Sarah. You're not a ruin. You're building something." Her eyes met his, tears glinting. "What if I can't? What if I fail her?" "You won't," Jack said, his voice firm. "You're writing to her. You're fighting." That's more than they ever did. Sarah wiped her eyes, a small nod. "You make it sound simple." "It ain't," Jack said, leaning forward. "But you're not alone. Not here." She looked at him, raw, open. "Why do you believe in me?" Jack paused, the fire crackling. "Because I see you, Sarah. Not what they said you are, what you are." A tear fell, her voice a whisper. "Thank you, Jack." That afternoon, the power hummed steady, but the roads were still thick with snow. Jack worked in the garage, fixing a neighbor's alternator, the work grounding him. Sarah and Emily stayed inside, baking cookies, Emily's idea. Sarah's careful hands guiding her. The cabin smelled of sugar and vanilla, a warmth that seeped into Jack when he returned. "Try one," Emily said, thrusting a cookie at him. It was misshapen, but sweet. And Jack grinned. "Not bad, kiddo," he said, winking at Sarah. "You teach her this." Sarah's smile was shut. She's a quick learner. The day passed in small moments, Emily's laughter, Sarah's quiet help, the fire's steady glow. But Jack felt the weight of time. Sarah's baby Ava was due soon, maybe weeks away. What then? Would she stay? Could she? He wanted her to, but the thought scared him. His life was a mess that's from Lisa's illness. A garage barely breaking even, a heart still bruised. Could he be enough for them? That night, after Emily was asleep, Jack found Sarah by the fire, her notebook open. She didn't hide it, her pen moving slow. "Another letter?" he asked, sitting across. "Yeah," she said, her voice soft. "About today, the cookies, the fort." "You," Jack's heart skipped. "Me." Sarah's eyes met his. Steady. "You're good, Jack." "To Emily. To me. Ava, she'll know that." He looked away, his throat tight. "Just doing what's right. It's more than that," Sarah said, her voice firm. You make me believe I can do this." Jack nodded, the words heavy. "You can." "Sarah, you already are." She closed the notebook, a tear slipping down. I got another letter today, from my sister." Jack raised a brow. "You open it?" "Not yet," she said, her voice small. I'm scared? Of what? He asked. Gentle. That she hates me too, Sarah whispered. That I'm alone. Jack leaned forward, his voice low. You're not alone, Sarah. You've got Emily. You've got me. Her eyes searched his, raw, hopeful. You mean that? Every word, Jack said, his heart pounding. He wanted to say more, to reach for her, but he held back. Not yet, not now. Sarah nodded, a small smile. Good night, Jack. Night, Sarah. The next morning, the sun broke through, the snow sparkling. Emily begged to sled, and Jack agreed, pulling an old toboggan from the shed. Sarah watched from the porch, her laughter carrying as Emily tumbled into a snowbank. Jack joined her, his own laughter surprising him. It felt good, like a weight lifting. Back inside, Sarah made cocoa, her movements sure. Emily drew sledding scenes, Sarah adding stars to the sky. Jack watched, his heart full, but he saw the letter on the counter Sarah's sister's, still unopened. You gonna read it? He asked, nodding at it. Sarah's smile faded. Maybe tonight. He nodded, not pushing. I'm here, if you need me. That evening, after dinner, Emily dragged out a puzzle, her chatter filling the cabin. Sarah joined, her hands steady, but her eyes kept flicking to the letter. Jack watched, his gut telling him it was time. Sarah, he said, low. Open it. Whatever it says, you're not alone. She looked at him, fear in her eyes, but nodded. She took the letter, her hands trembling, and tore it open. Her eyes scanned the page, her breath catching. Tears fell, silent, and Jack's heart sank. What is it? He asked. Gentle. Sarah's voice broke. She wants me to come home, says she's sorry for not standing up for me. Jack exhaled, relief flooding him. That's good, right? Sarah shook her head, tears falling. I don't know. They hurt me. Jack, I can't go back. Then don't, he said, his voice firm. You've got a home here. With us. Her eyes met his, raw, searching. You mean that? Yeah, Jack said, his voice rough. I do, she nodded. A sob escaping, Emily looked up, confused. Sarah, you okay? Sarah wiped her eyes, smiling. Yeah, Emily. I'm okay. That night, Jack sat by the fire, Emily asleep, Sarah upstairs. He thought of the letter, of Sarah's pain, of the family they were becoming. It was messy, uncertain, but it was real. And for the first time in years, Jack felt something he hadn't dared hope. The days blended, the snow melting, the cabin alive with laughter, with life. Sarah stayed, her presence a steady warmth. She helped with chores, played with Emily, wrote to Ava. Jack worked in the garage, his hands steady, his heart lighter, but he felt it, the clock ticking. Ava's birth was close, and with it, choices. Would Sarah stay? Could he ask her to? One evening, as the sun set, Jack found Sarah on the porch, her notebook in her lap. Writing, he asked, sitting beside her. Yeah, she said, her voice soft. About you, how you saved me. Jack's heart pounded. I didn't save you, Sarah. You saved yourself. She looked at him, her eyes shining. You gave me a chance, Jack. A home. He reached for her hand, his voice rough. You're part of us. Sarah, you and Ava. Her hand trembled in his, her voice a whisper. I want to stay, then stay, Jack said, his heart racing. We'll figure it out. Together. They sat there, hands linked, the stars above them. The snow was gone, the world thawing, and in that small Maine cabin, a family was forming, one built on kindness, on trust, on a hearth that never burned out. The Maine winter gave way to a hesitant spring, the snow retreating to patches in the shade of the pines around Jack Turner's cabin. By mid-February, the air carried a faint warmth, the ground softening into mud, the world stirring like it was waking from a long sleep. Inside the cabin, life had settled into a rhythm that felt both new and timeless. Jack, his 9-year-old daughter, Emily, and Sarah Miller, now 8 months pregnant, had become a unit, not quite a family, not yet, but something close, held together by shared meals, quiet laughter, and the steady glow of the hearth. Yet, as Ava's due date loomed, Jack felt the weight of what was coming, a birth, a choice, a future none of them could fully see. Jack woke before dawn, the clock reading 5:15 a.m. The cabin was quiet, the fire a low ember. He pulled on his flannel, his boots creaking on the wooden floor. Emily slept on the couch, her blanket tangled, her sketchbook open to a drawing of a pony. Sarah's door was closed, but Jack knew she'd be up soon, her restlessness growing with Ava's kicks. He brewed coffee, its bitter scent filling the kitchen, and stood by the window, watching the first light touch the trees. The world was changing, and so was he. Sarah's decision to stay had shifted something in him. Her words on the porch, "I want to stay," echoed in his mind. A promise he wasn't sure he deserved. He was a mechanic, a widower, a father struggling to keep the bills paid. His life was a patchwork of debt and grief. Yet Sarah saw something in him, something worth trusting. It scared him, that trust, but it also lit a fire he hadn't felt since Lisa's laughter filled this house. Emily's voice broke the silence. "Dad, can we make muffins?" She shuffled in, her curls a mess, her eyes bright despite the hour. Jack grinned, ruffling her hair. "Muffins, huh? Blueberry." "Yeah," Emily said, climbing onto a stool. "Sarah likes them, too." Jack's heart warmed. Emily had claimed Sarah, her childlike heart weaving her into their lives. He nodded, pulling out flour and sugar. "Let's get started." Sarah appeared as they mixed batters, her steps slow, her hand on her belly. She wore Lisa's sweater, its sleeves rolled up, her dark hair loose. Her eyes met Jack's, a small smile flickering. "Morning," she said, her voice soft. "Morning," Jack replied, sliding a mug of tea across. "Muffin crew's at work." Sarah's smile grew. "Smells good already." Emily held up a spoon. "Dripping batter." "Sarah, you want to help?" Sarah hesitated, then nodded, taking the spoon. They worked together, Emily chattering, Sarah's laughter soft but real. Jack watched, his chest tight. This was what he'd missed, a house alive. A table full, a future that didn't feel so heavy. Breakfast was warm muffins, Emily spilling crumbs, Sarah sipping tea. After, Emily dragged out her sketchbook, drawing a family of ponies. "This is Ava's pony," she said, pointing at a small, wobbly figure. "She'll ride it someday." Sarah's eyes softened, her hand on her belly. "You think so?" "Yep," Emily said, grinning. "I'll teach her." Jack chuckled, cleaning dishes. "You're gonna be a good big sister, kiddo." Emily beamed, but Sarah's smile faltered. Her eyes distant. Jack saw it, the doubt, the fear. Ava's birth was close, maybe days away, and with it came questions. Would Sarah stay for good? Could she be a mother? Jack wanted to ask, but he held back, giving her space. By noon, the sun was high, the mud drying in the yard. Emily begged to play outside, and Jack agreed, pulling on his jacket. Sarah joined them, sitting on the porch, her notebook in her lap. Emily ran through the grass, chasing a butterfly. Her laughter carrying. Jack fixed a loose fence post, his hands steady, his eyes flicking to Sarah. She wrote slowly, her pen pausing, her face thoughtful. Letter to Ava, he asked, wiping his hands. Sarah nodded, her voice low. About today, the muffins. Emily's pony. You. Jack's heart skipped. Me again. Yeah, she said, her eyes meeting his. You're in a lot of them. He looked away, his throat tight. Hope I'm not boring her. Sarah's smile was soft. You're not, Jack. You're her hero. The words hit hard, warm and heavy. Jack nodded, unable to speak. He wanted to be that hero. Protector. Home. But he wasn't sure he could, not with the debts piling up. The garage barely breaking even. The fear that he'd fail them all. That afternoon, the cabin filled with the smell of soup. Sarah stirring a pot. Emily setting the table. Jack worked in the garage, fixing a neighbor's radiator. The work grounding him, but his mind was on Sarah, on Ava, on the life they were building. He thought of Lisa, of the promises he'd made, and wondered if he could make new ones without breaking. Dinner was quiet. Emily yawning, Sarah's eyes tired but warm. After, Emily dragged out a board game, her energy endless. Sarah, you're on my team, she said, pushing pieces across the board. Sarah laughed, her hand on her belly. You sure? I'm not great at this. You're awesome, Emily said, grinning. Jack watched, his heart full. Sarah was part of them, her laughter blending with Emily's, her presence a steady warmth. But that night, as Emily slept, Jack found Sarah by the fire, her face paled, her hands gripping the armchair. Sarah, he asked, stepping closer. You okay? She shook her head, her voice tight. It hurts, more than usual. Jack's gut twisted. How long? Since this morning, she said, wincing. It's getting worse. Jack knelt beside her, his voice calm but firm. Could be contractions. We need to time them. Sarah's eyes widened, fear raw. It's too soon. I'm not ready. You're ready, Jack said, his hand on hers. You're strong. We'll do this together. She nodded, tears falling, her breath shaky. Jack grabbed a notebook, marking the time. The contractions came, irregular but close, each one tightening Sarah's face. He stayed beside her, counting, his voice steady. Breathe, Sarah. You're doing great. Emily woke, her voice small. Dad. What's wrong? Jack turned, keeping calm. Sarah's okay. Kiddo, the baby's coming. I need you to be brave. All right. Emily nodded, her eyes big. Can I help? Stay close, Jack said, smiling. You're helping already. The night stretched. The cabin lit by firelight, the power steady but the world outside dark. Sarah's contractions grew closer, her grip on Jack's hand fierce. He called the local clinic. The nurse's voice calm but urgent. Roads are clear, she said. Get her here if you can. Jack looked at Sarah, her face slick with sweat. Can you make it to the truck? She nodded, wincing. Yeah, I think so. He helped her up, Emily grabbing blankets. The drive was slow, the roads slick, Sarah's breaths sharp in the quiet. Jack kept one hand on the wheel, the other on hers, his voice steady. You're doing great. Sarah, almost there. The clinic was small, its lights bright against the night. Nurses met them, whisking Sarah to a room. Jack and Emily following. Emily clung to his hand, her voice small. Is Sarah gonna be okay? Yeah, kiddo, Jack said, his heart racing. She's tough. Hours passed. The waiting room cold, Emily dozing on Jack's shoulder. He thought of Lisa, of her labor with Emily, of the joy and fear that had filled him. This was different, but the same, a life beginning, a bond forming. He prayed Sarah was okay, that Ava was strong. A nurse appeared, her smile tired but warm. She's here, a girl. Both are fine, Jack exhaled, relief flooding him. Can we see them? The nurse nodded, leading them to a room. Sarah lay in bed, pale but glowing, a tiny bundle in her arms. Her eyes met Jack's, tears shining. Jack, meet Ava. He stepped closer, Emily peering over. Ava was small, red, her eyes closed, her fists curled. Jack's throat tightened, a warmth spreading. She's perfect, he said, his voice rough. Emily grinned, touching Ava's hand. Hi, Ava, I'm your sister. Sarah laughed, a soft, broken sound. Yeah, you are. Jack sat beside them, his heart full. This was more than kindness, more than shelter. This was family, messy and real. Born in a storm and sealed in this moment. The next day, Sarah and Ava came home, the cabin waiting, its hearth glowing. Emily had hung a drawing above the couch, stick figure family. Ava's tiny figure in the center. Sarah smiled, tears falling. It's beautiful. Emily. Jack helped Sarah settle. Ava in a bassinet he'd found in the attic. The days blurred, filled with feedings, diapers. Emily's chatter. Sarah was tired but strong. Her love for Ava, fierce. Jack worked in the garage, his hands steady, his heart lighter. But he felt it, the future, looming. Sarah had stayed, but for how long? Could he ask her to make this home? One evening, as Ava slept, Jack found Sarah by the fire, her notebook open, writing. He asked, sitting across. Yeah, she said, her voice soft, about Ava, her birth. You. Jack's heart skipped, still making me the hero. You are, Sarah said, her eyes meeting his. You were there. Jack, every step. He looked away, his throat tight. Just doing what's right. It's more, Sarah said, her voice firm. You gave me a home, a family. Jack's hand found hers, his voice rough. You're part of us, Sarah. You and Ava. Her eyes shone, her hand trembling. I want this. Jack, I'm scared. Of what? He asked. Gentle, messing it up. She whispered, hurting. You. Emily. Ava. You won't, Jack said, his voice firm. We're in this together. She nodded, a tear falling. Thank you, Jack. Spring bloomed, the cabin alive with life. Sarah grew stronger, Ava's cries filling the night. Emily taught Sarah card games, her laughter a constant. Jack fixed the porch, his hands steady, his heart full, but he saw the letters Sarah's sister, unopened, piling up. You gonna read them? He asked one day, nodding at the stack. Sarah's smile faded. Someday, he nodded, not pushing. I'm here. That night, as the stars shone, Jack sat on the porch, Sarah beside him, Ava in her arms. You ever think about the night we met? She asked, her voice low. Every day, Jack said, his voice rough. It changed everything. Sarah's hand found his, her voice a whisper. For me, too. They sat there, the cabin glowing behind them, the hearth burning steady. The future was uncertain, but the present was enough, a family, a home, a bond forged in kindness and firelight. Spring unfolded across the Maine countryside, the pines around Jack Turner's cabin swaying in a warm breeze, the mud of winter giving way to green grass and wildflowers. By early May, the world felt alive, vibrant, as if it had been holding its breath and was now exhaling. Inside the cabin, life had grown into something Jack hadn't dared dream of since Lisa's death. His 9-year-old daughter, Emily, Sarah Miller, and her newborn daughter, Ava, had become a family not by blood, but by choice, by kindness, by the quiet strength of the hearth that burned through their darkest nights. Yet, as the seasons turned, Jack felt the weight of a final question. Could this family, forged in a storm, endure the uncertainties of the future? Jack woke early, the clock reading 5 hours 30 a.m. The cabin was quiet, the first light filtering through the curtains. He pulled on his flannel, his boots soft on the wooden floor. Emily slept in her room, her door ajar, her sketchbook open on the nightstand. Sarah's room, now shared with Ava, was closed, but Jack heard the faint creak of the rocking chair. Ava's early feeding, Sarah's soft humming. He brewed coffee, its scent grounding him, and stood by the window, watching the sunrise paint the pines gold. The world was new, and so was he. Sarah's decision to stay had changed everything. Ava's birth, in the chaos of a stormy night, had sealed their bond, turning strangers into something more. Jack was still a mechanic, still a widower, still a father fighting to keep the bills paid, but he was also something else now. Sarah's anchor, Ava's protector, Emily's hero. It scared him, this role, but it also filled him with a purpose he'd thought was lost forever. Emily's voice broke the silence. "Dad, pancakes." She shuffled into the kitchen, her curls wild, her pajamas wrinkled. Jack grinned, ruffling her hair. "Pancakes it is." "Kiddo, blueberry." "Yeah," Emily said, climbing onto a stool. "Can Sarah and Ava eat with us?" "Of course," Jack said, his heart warming. Emily's love for Sarah and Ava was so simple, so fierce. It made everything feel possible. Sarah appeared, Ava cradled in her arms, her dark hair loose, her eyes tired but bright. "Morning," she said, her voice soft. "Morning," Jack replied, sliding a mug of tea across. "Sleep okay?" "Some," Sarah said, smiling. "Ava's a night owl," Emily giggled, peering at Ava's tiny face. "She's so cute." Jack watched, his chest tight. Ava was growing, her eyes now following Emily's movements, her fists uncurling. Sarah was a mother, strong and sure, her love for Ava a quiet force. He thought of Lisa, of the family they'd planned, and felt a pang, but it was softer now, like a memory held gently. Breakfast was loud pancakes, syrup spills, Emily's chatter about school, Sarah's laughter. After, Emily dragged out her sketchbook, drawing a picnic scene. "This is us," she said, pointing at stick figures under a tree. "You, May, Sarah, Ava." Sarah's eyes softened, her hand on Ava's back. "It's perfect, Emily." Jack cleaned dishes, stealing glances. Sarah was part of them, her presence a steady warmth. But he saw the stack of unopened letters from her sister, tucked in her bag. She hadn't mentioned them in weeks, but they lingered, a shadow he couldn't ignore. By noon, the sun was warm, the yard buzzing with bees. Emily begged to play outside, and Jack agreed. Pulling on his jacket, Sarah joined them. Ava in a sling, her notebook in her pocket. Emily ran through the grass, chasing dandelions, her laughter carrying. Jack fixed a loose porch step, his hands steady, his eyes flicking to Sarah. She sat on the swing, writing, her pen moving slow, her face thoughtful. "Letter to Ava?" he asked, wiping his hands. Sarah nodded, her voice low. "About spring, the flowers." Emily's laugh. "You?" Jack's heart skipped. "Still writing about me?" "Yeah," she said, her eyes meeting his. "You're in every one." He looked away, his throat tight. "Hope I'm not too dull." Sarah's smile was soft. You're everything. Jack. The words hit hard, warm and heavy. He wanted to be that everything. Home. Forever. But the debts, the garage, the fear of failing them, they loomed, a weight he couldn't shake. That afternoon, the cabin filled with the smell of bread. Sarah kneading dough, Emily shaping rolls. Jack worked in the garage, fixing a neighbor's muffler. The work grounding him, but his mind was on Sarah, on Ava, on the life they were building. He thought of the letters, of Sarah's past, and wondered if she could truly leave it behind. Dinner was warm bread. Soup, Emily's chatter. After, Emily dragged out a puzzle, her energy endless. Sarah, you're with me, she said. Pushing pieces across the table, Sarah laughed, her hand on Ava's sling. You sure? I'm slow. You're awesome, Emily said, grinning. Jack watched, his heart full. Sarah was theirs, her laughter blending with Emily's, her presence a light in the cabin's corners. But that night, as Emily slept, Jack found Sarah by the fire, her face pale, the stack of letters in her hands. Sarah, he asked, stepping closer. What's wrong? She looked up, tears glinting. I opened one from my sister. Jack sat beside her, his voice gentle. What'd it say? Sarah's voice broke. She wants to see me, says she's sorry, that she misses me. But I can't. Jack, not after everything. Jack's hand found hers, his voice firm. You don't have to. You've got us. Her eyes searched his, raw. What if they want Ava? What if they take her? They won't, Jack said, his voice fierce. You're her mother. This is her home. Sarah nodded, a sob escaping. I'm scared. Jack, I know, he said, pulling her close. But you're not alone. Not anymore. She leaned into him, her tears soaking his shirt. Jack held her, his heart pounding. This was more than kindness, more than shelter. This was love, messy and real, and he wasn't letting go. The next morning, the sun rose bright, the air sweet with lilacs. Emily begged to plant flowers, and Jack agreed. Pulling out old pots from the shed, Sarah joined them, Ava in her sling, her eyes red but calm. Emily dug in the dirt, her hands muddy, her laughter infectious. Jack watched, his heart easing. Sarah was here, with them, and that was enough for now. Sarah, look, Emily said, holding up a marigold. For Ava's room, Sarah smiled, her voice soft. She'll love it. Back inside, they washed up, the cabin warm with sunlight. Emily showed Sarah her flower sketch, chattering about gardens. Sarah listened, her hand on Ava's head, her eyes soft. Jack sat across, stoking the fire. You okay? He asked. Low. Sarah nodded, her smile small. Better. Thanks to you. Jack's throat tightened. Anytime. That evening, as the stars emerged, Jack found Sarah on the porch, her notebook open. Writing, he asked, sitting beside her. Yeah, she said, her voice soft. About us. This family. Jack's heart raced. Family. Huh. Sarah's eyes met his, steady. That's what we are, right? Yeah, Jack said, his voice rough. We are. Her hand found his, her voice a whisper. I love you, Jack. The words hit like a wave, warm and fierce. Jack's breath caught, his hand tightening on hers. Sarah, I love you, too. They sat there, hands linked, the stars above them. The cabin glowed behind, the hearth burning steady. Jack felt it, the fear, the hope, the promise of forever. He wanted this, all of it. but the words stuck, his heart too full. Summer came, the cabin alive with light. Sarah grew stronger, Ava's giggles filling the days. Emily taught Sarah to braid, her patience endless. Jack fixed the roof, his hands steady, his heart light. But the letters kept coming, Sarah's sister persistent. One day, Jack found her reading one, her face tight. "What's it say?" he asked. Gentle, Sarah's voice was low. "She wants to visit, says she wants to make things right." Jack's gut twisted. "You want that?" "I don't know," Sarah said, tears falling. "I'm scared." Jack knelt beside her, his voice firm. "Whatever you choose, I'm here." "We're here," she nodded. A small smile. I'll meet her. But here, on my terms." Jack's heart swelled. "That's my girl." The meeting came a week later. Sarah's sister, Claire, arriving at the cabin. She was older, her eyes weary, her voice soft. "Sarah, I'm so sorry," she said, tears falling. Sarah stood tall, Ava in her arms. I needed you, Claire." "And you weren't there," Claire nodded, her voice breaking. "I know. I failed you, but I'm here now." Sarah's eyes searched hers, raw. I forgive you, but this is my home now." Claire smiled, tears falling. "I'm proud of you." They talked, slow and halting, the past a heavy shadow. Jack watched, Emily at his side, his heart full. Sarah was strong, her love for Ava, for them, a quiet force. That night, as Claire left, Sarah sat by the fire, her notebook open, writing. Jack asked, sitting beside her. "Yeah," she said, her voice soft. "About forgiveness." "And us." Jack's hand found hers, his voice rough. "Sarah, marry me." Her eyes widened, tears shining. "Jack, I mean it," he said, his heart racing. "You?" "Ava." "Emily, you're my family. Marry me." Sarah's voice broke, a smile spreading. "Yes, yes, Jack." They kissed, fierce and sure, the firelight dancing. Emily's voice broke the moment. "Dad, Sarah." She stood in the doorway, eyes wide. Jack laughed, pulling her close. "Sarah's gonna be your mom, kiddo." Emily squealed, hugging them both. "And Ava's my sister." The wedding came in June, the cabin glowing with summer. Neighbors filled the yard. Tables heavy with food pies, chicken, lemonade. Sarah wore a simple white dress, her hair loose, her eyes shining. Jack stood tall in a new shirt, Emily beside him, Ava in her arms. The vows were short, heartfelt. "I promise to love you, Sarah," Jack said, his voice steady, through storms and sun. "I promise to stand by you, Jack," Sarah said, tears falling. "You're my home." They kissed, the crowd cheering, Emily whooping. Ava cooed, Emily twirled. The music played. Jack spun Sarah, her laughter a song he'd never tire of. That night, under the stars, they sat on the porch, Emily and Ava asleep, the cabin quiet. "We did it," Sarah said, her head on his shoulder. "We're just starting," Jack said, kissing her hair. "You, me. The girls, we're building something." Sarah smiled, her hand in his, a family. Years passed, the cabin thriving. Sarah became a baker, her pies famous in town. Jack's garage grew, his hands steady, his heart full. Emily joined the school art club, her drawings bright. Ava learned to walk, her laughter echoing. They were a family, their days loud, their nights warm. One evening, as the sun set, Jack found Sarah by the fire, her notebook open, still writing. he asked, sitting beside her. Yeah, she said, her voice soft. To Ava. To us. Jack's hand found hers, his voice rough. You're my miracle, Sarah. She smiled, her eyes shining. And you're mine. They sat there, the hearth glowing, the wooden box of letters beside them Sarah's, Emily's, now Ava's, a story of love, of kindness, of a family born in a storm and sealed in firelight. The world outside turned, but inside they were home. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey with Jack, Sarah, Emily, and Ava on the Kindness in Real Life channel. Your support has warmed our hearts, and we're so grateful you shared in their story of love and family. If this tale touched you, please drop a comment with your favorite moment, and subscribe to keep the kindness alive. Let's spread hope together. See you in the next story.